There's four names that you can actually call the country. The conventional long form name of Saudi Arabia is Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The conventional short form is simply Saudi Arabia. The local long form is Al-Mamlaka Al-Arabia As-Saudiya. The local short form is Al-Arabia Al-Saudiya. Now, did you guys know that Saudi Arabia is the largest country in the world without a river? The extensive coastlines on the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea make things great for shipping things like crude oil through the Persian Gulf and the Suez Canal. The modern Saudi state was founded in 1932 by a man named Abdulaziz bin Abdul Rahman. After a 30-year campaign to unify most of the Arabian Peninsula, one of his male descendants rules the country today, as required by the country's 1992 Basic Law. Now, in regards to princes of Saudi Arabia, there's over 7,000 Saudi Arabian princes alive today, and they estimate that the royal family is up to 30,000 people. Each of the princes in Saudi Arabia get top priority when it comes to getting jobs and professional opportunities. And they also must be hired before a non-prince could get a job. So let's talk about the driest places on earth. Where could that be? Obviously Saudi Arabia, because we're talking about it. Most specifically, the Rub al-Khali, or the Empty Quarter. This is considered the driest place on earth. Now, this desert, which is 1,000 kilometers, which is roughly 620 miles long, and 500 kilometers, about 310 miles wide, occupies a large portion of Saudi Arabia. In regards to religion, Saudi Arabia is actually the birthplace of Islam, as well as it's the home to Islam's two holiest shrines, in Mecca and Medina. That's why the King of Saudi Arabia's official title is actually the custodian of the two holy mosques. And as a matter of fact, non-Muslims are prohibited to set foot on these two places. And since we are talking a little bit about religion, guys, I want to know down below in the comment section, what religion are you? Or if you're not a religious person, what do you identify as? The Islamic law is also the law of the land, which means judges give punishments based on their interpretation of the Quran, as well as all judges in Saudi Arabia are handpicked by the king. In regards to tradition, Saudis have great respect for privacy, so you never ever film a woman in public. As well as you can take photos of males, but you gotta get their permission first. It's not like in North America where the press has a free-for-all. Everybody's taking photos of everybody. Now, to touch on a pretty controversial topic, women in Saudi Arabia cannot own property, leave the house, sign legal documents, or take classes without the permission of a male guardian like her husband, father, brother, or son. Also, on top of that, in court, a woman's testimony is considered 50% less trustworthy than a male's testimony. Now, in terms of wildlife, here we have the graceful Arabian oryx. It was actually listed as extinct in the wild by the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. Afterwards, it was reintroduced in the deserts of Saudi Arabia. The antelope was again reclassified as vulnerable. This animal was again reclassified as vulnerable, making it one of the few animals in the world whose population has increased after nearly disappearing. Now, the title for the world's tallest building is always a title that some country wants to have. But in 2018, that title will belong to the Kingdom Tower, which is a centerpiece of a new city being built in Saudi Arabia. The Kingdom Tower is set to be the first building to ever reach more than a kilometer, which is about 3,280 feet into the air. And it will include a hotel, observatory, office space, as well as have apartments for people that want to take a look at the view from so high up. Now, once construction for the tower is complete, it's likely that this will not be passed for a good while. As well as one analyst says that reaching 1 kilometer into the air like the Kingdom Tower would is currently the limit of what engineering can do.
This project is anticipated to finish in 2018. This whole project, which is really the 1,000 meter plus.
Now, before we go, let's talk a little bit about the water problems in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has an average summer temperature of 113 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, for the past several decades, they have been using water from an aquifer, which is an underground body of rock that has been saturated with water. Aquifers are great sources of water, but the problem with them is that they refill slowly. And what started out as a viable water supply source has now depleted depleted so much so that only 20% of it is left. Also, Saudi Arabia desalinates more water than any other country in the world. And desalination is pretty much just taking salt and other chemicals out of water. But even being the world leaders in desalination, that's still not enough. In order to meet the demand for fresh water, around $200 billion would need to be spent on desalination resources over the next decade. So like if you're a single guy and you're thinking about taking a stroll through a mall, well, you might have to think again. You see, many malls are families only zones, and single men will be turned back at the door before they even enter. So in order to be allowed in, a man actually has to be with either a female or some other type of family member. Okay, so if you're going to a public gathering outside in public, no, it's not happening. Not in Saudi Arabia. I mean, like, all sorts of public gatherings are completely banned. From just like celebrations about anything to like peaceful protests. No, not in public. In Saudi Arabia, not gonna happen. And you know, when we go shopping, it's just as much for the ladies as it is for guys, where we like to try on clothes to see if it fits well, to see if it actually looks good on our body. And that's how a lot of times we base what we buy at the stores. But you see, in Saudi Arabia, when a woman goes to a store and they see something that they like and they go to the dressing room, they can't try on the clothes because it's like the thought of a woman taking off her clothes in public makes everybody go nuts. So I'm sorry ladies, you'll just have to just buy it based on how it looks, and hopefully it fits well, and hopefully you like it when you get home. Now for all you lovebirds out there, you may not like this one, because florists in Saudi Arabia were actually forbidden from selling red roses on February 14th, which is Valentine's Day. As well as gift shops, they were actually forbidden from selling anything that was shaped like a heart, and girls were actually forbidden from wearing anything red to school. So if you actually broke this rule, you would risk being shut down. Like really, your store would get shut down by the Committee for the Promotion of Virtue and the Prevention of Vice. And you know, this group of people is often commonly referred to as the religious police. So yeah, if you're a female student, you went to school in a red shirt, boom, you're sent home. You gotta change that bad boy. Now, it was not until the year 2017 where shops were actually allowed to sell red roses. So the spirit of Valentine's Day now actually has a glimmer of hope to survive and thrive in a country like Saudi Arabia. Now let's talk about women actually being forbidden to drive cars in Saudi Arabia. Now there's a fatwa, which is an Islamic ruling, that states that women should not drive because if they do so, it could lead to the removal of their hijab, or it could also lead to interactions with men, as well as other taboo actions. Now, in case you didn't know, Saudi Arabia is the only country in the world that banned women from driving. But you see, this was the case up until last year. Now, the government used to claim that there was no law stopping women to drive. However, in Saudi Arabia, because the fatwas have the law of the land, it supersedes all other law. And just recently, June of 2018, Saudi Arabia actually lifted the ban for women to drive for the first time since the 1950s. Now for this next law, we visit the clothing and shopping stuff again. In Saudi Arabia, only women can work in lingerie stores. According to a report that was published by the Los Angeles Times, only women were allowed to work in lingerie shops. Now this law apparently is for women who would be uncomfortable buying underwear from men. I mean, like, I get it, you know, it's intimate apparel, you know, lingerie, underwear. I get it, yeah, women, it's not really a weird law, it's just, yeah, okay, it's one of those interesting ones, one of these laws that have that gray area of like being interesting. It's not really weird or controversial, I don't think. But let me know what you think about that. Is that weird? Do you think that's controversial? Should men be allowed to work at female lingerie shops? Let me know down there. But there's a law that has been completely controversial since I can remember. So all women in Saudi Arabia are to have a male wali, which is an official guardian. And this is usually a father, maybe an uncle or husband, or even a brother. Now, women are to have their guardians consent for any major activities, like if they want to travel or get a passport, or even like getting divorced or getting married and signing other major contracts. But you see, in May of 2017, there was a small victory that was won when King Salman decreed that for some activities, let's say like going to university or getting a surgery, women didn't need the permission anymore from any kind of male relative or their husband. Now this next one has to do with clothing again. There's a lot of these interesting laws that deal with this. But in Saudi Arabia, women are forbidden from wearing clothes that show off their beauty or even wearing a lot of makeup. The law is very strict when it comes to the majority of women in Saudi Arabia, and most of them wear an abaya, which is a long cloak, and a headscarf. And the face doesn't necessarily need to be covered, but although if you're wearing clothes that may have a slit in it, showing off maybe a little too much skin, well, I don't know what is considered too much skin, because like no skin is really showing. You can't do that. As well as if you're seen with a lot of makeup on your face, you are going to be harassed by the religious police. Now the second last law, another controversial one dealing with women and men relationships. Women are actually required to limit the amount of time that they spend with men that they're not related to. Most major buildings and offices and universities and things like that have separate entrances for men and women. Also, public transportation as well as parks and beaches, well, a lot of them, they segregate male and female. Now, if you're caught violating this, it's seen as unlawful mixing and you could be criminally charged, whether you're male or female. And for a final law, for all you dentists out there who, for some reason, may be thinking of starting a practice in Saudi Arabia, well, if you're not from there, good luck. Being a dentist in Saudi Arabia is only exclusive to Saudi nationals. However, on the flip side, there are several other occupations and professions that are reserved to just non-Saudis only. Like if you work in a retail sales position, or if you're a human resources manager, you gotta not be a national of Saudi Arabia.
First fact on this list has to do with Mecca's etymology and usage. Mecca is the familiar form of the English translation for the Arabic name of the city, although the official translation used by the Saudi government is Mecca, spelled as M-A-K-K-A-H, which is closer to the Arabic pronunciation. The full official name is Mecca al-Mukarrama, which means Mecca the Honored, but is also loosely translated as the Holy City of Mecca. The ancient or early name for the site of Mecca is known as Becca. Widely believed to be a synonym for Mecca, it is said to be more specifically the early name for the valley located therein, while Muslim scholars generally use it to refer to the sacred area of the city that immediately surrounds and includes the Kaaba. Another surprising fact about Mecca is that its 2 million population actually triples during the pilgrimage periods. The pilgrimage to Mecca attracts millions of Muslims from all over the world. There are two main pilgrimages, the Hajj and the Umrah. The Hajj, the greater pilgrimage, is performed annually in Mecca and nearby sites. During the Hajj, several million people of varying nationalities come together to worship. Every adult, healthy Muslim who has the financial and physical capacity to travel to Mecca and can make the arrangements for their care of their dependents during the trip must perform the Hajj at least once in a lifetime. Umrah, which is known as the lesser pilgrimage, is not obligatory but is recommended in the Quran. So the Meccan economy has been heavily dependent on the annual pilgrimage. As one academic put it, Meccans have no means of earning a living but by serving the Hajjis. Income generated from the Hajj, in fact, not only powers the Meccan economy but has historically had far-reaching effects on the economy of the entire Arabian Peninsula. The income was generated in a number of ways. One method was taxing the pilgrims. Taxes especially increased during the Great Depression, and many of these taxes existed as late as 1972. Another way the Hajj generates income is through services to pilgrims. For example, the Saudi national airline Saudia generates 12% of its income from the pilgrimage. Fares paid by pilgrims times to reach Mecca by land also generate income, as do the hotels and lodging companies that house them. The city takes in more than $100 million, while the Saudi government spends about $50 million on these services for the Hajj. There are some industries and factories in the cities, but Mecca no longer plays a major role in Saudi Arabia's economy, which is mainly based on oil exports. Mecca's culture has been affected by a large number of pilgrims that arrive annually, and thus boasts a rich cultural heritage. As a result of the vast numbers of pilgrims coming to the city each year, Mecca has become by far the most diverse city in the Muslim world. In contrast to the rest of Saudi Arabia, and particularly Najd, Mecca has, according to the New York Times, become a striking oasis of free thought and discussion, and also of unlikely liberalism. In fact, Mecca owns its own hometown paper known as Al Nadwa. However, other Saudi and international newspapers are also provided in Mecca, such as the Saudi Gazette, Al Madina, Okaz, and Al Bilad. The first three are Mecca's primary newspapers, focusing mainly on issues that affect the city, with over 1 million readers. In pre-modern Mecca, the most common sports were impromptu wrestling and foot races. Football is the most popular sport in Mecca, and the city is hosting some of the oldest sport clubs in Saudi Arabia, such as Al Wahda FC, established in 1945. And of course, the King Abdulaziz Stadium, which is the largest stadium in Mecca with a capacity of 38,000 people. The city of Mecca actually happens to be home to the Black Stone, which is set in the eastern corner of the Kaaba. It is revered by Muslims as an Islamic relic, which, according to Muslim tradition, dates back to the time of Adam and Eve. The stone was venerated at the Kaaba in pre-Islamic times, and according to Islamic tradition, it was set intact into the Kaaba's wall by the Islamic Prophet Muhammad, 5 years before his first revelation. Since then, it has been broken into fragments and is now cemented into a silver frame in the side of the Kaaba. Its physical appearance is that of a fragmented dark rock, polished smooth by the hands of pilgrims. Islamic tradition holds that it fell from heaven as a guide for Adam and Eve to build an altar. It has often been described as a meteorite. Muslim pilgrims circle the Kaaba as a part of the Tawaf ritual during the Hajj, and many try to stop to kiss the black stone, emulating the kiss that Islamic tradition records that it received from Muhammad. Muslims, however, do not worship the black stone. So this next fact actually has to do with the cuisine in the city of Mecca. As in other Arab cities, kabsa, which is a spiced dish of rice and meat, is the most traditional lunch in the city. But the Yemeni mandi, which is a dish of rice and tandoori cooked meat, is also quite popular. Grilled meat dishes such as shawarma, kofta, and kebab are widely sold in Mecca. During Ramadan, fava beans in olive oil and samosas are the most popular dishes and are eaten at dusk. These dishes are almost always found in Lebanese, Syrian, and Turkish restaurants. And the mixture of different ethnicities and nationalities amongst Meccan residents has significantly impacted Mecca's traditional cuisine. The city has been described as one of the most cosmopolitan Islamic cities with international cuisine. Traditionally, during the month of Ramadan, men are provided with mineral water and fruit juice for Muslims breaking their fast at dusk. In the 20th century, many fast food chains opened franchises in Mecca, catering to locals and pilgrims alike. Exotic foods such as fruits from India and Japan are even often brought by the pilgrims as well. Another surprising fact that most people don't know about Mecca is that there are many public and private schools for both girls and boys, but the city only has one university. Formal education started to be developed in the late Ottoman period, continuing slowly into and Hashemite times. The first major attempt to improve the situation was made by a Jeddah merchant known as Muhammad al-Zainal Rida, who founded the Madrasat al-Falih in Mecca in 1911 that cost £400,000. As of 2005, there were 532 public and private schools for males and another 681 public and private schools for female students. The medium of instruction in both public and private schools is Arabic, with emphasis on English as a second language. But some private schools founded by foreign entities such as international schools use the English language for the medium of instruction. For higher education, the city only has one university, as I mentioned, known as al-Qura University, which was established in 1949 as a college and became a public university in 1979 as well. Next up on the list at number 3 is the fact that in 2010, the Mecca area became an important site for paleontology with respect to primate evolution with the discovery of a Sirenius fossil. Sirenius is considered to be a primate closely related to the common ancestor of the old world monkeys and apes. The fossil habitat near what is now known as the Red Sea in western Saudi Arabia was a damp forest area between 28 million and 29 million years ago. The city of Mecca also happens to be home to the Well of Zamzam, which is a well located in the Masjid of Haram, 20 meters east of the Kaaba. According to Islam, it is a miraculously generated source of water from God, which sprang thousands of years ago when Ibrahim's son Ismail was left with his mother Hajar in the desert, where he was thirsty and kept crying. The name of the well comes from the phrase Zomi Zomi, meaning stop flowing, a command repeated by Hajar during her attempt to contain the spring water. Millions of pilgrims visit the well each year while performing the Hajj or Umrah pilgrimages in order to drink its water. Another holy place that Mecca is home to is known as Jabal al-Nur, which is a mountain near Mecca in the Hijazi region. The mountain houses the grotto or cave of Hira, which holds tremendous significance for Muslims throughout the world, as the Islamic Nabi Prophet Muhammad is said to have spent a great deal of time in this cave meditating, and it is widely believed that it was here that he received his first revelation, which consisted of the first 5 ayats of Surah Al-Alaq from the angel Jibreel. The mountain itself is barely 640 meters. Nonetheless, 1 to 2 hours are needed to make the strenuous hike to the cave. There are 1,750 steps to take to the top, which can take anywhere between 25 minutes to an hour and 30 minutes. Last but certainly not least on the list is the fact that non-Muslims are actually prohibited from entering the city of Mecca. Mecca was long ruled by Muhammad's descendants, the Sharifs acting either as independent rulers or as vassals to larger polities. It was conquered by Ibn Saud in 1925. Non-Muslims may not enter or travel through Mecca, and attempting to enter Mecca as a non-Muslim can actually result in penalties such as a fine. Being in Mecca as a non-Muslim can also result in deportation. In the city of Medina, however, both Muslims and non-Muslims are allowed in.
Saudi Arabia has 830,000 square miles or 2,149,690 square kilometers in total land area. And this makes it the 12th largest country in the world. And it is the largest country in the Middle East, about 1/4 of the size of the entire United States. And within that landscape, it has a population density of 15 people per square kilometer. And the entire population of the country totals 34 million people, making it the 40th most populated country in the world. In Saudi Arabia, the left hand is considered to be the dirty hand. Why? Well, because the left hand is typically used to clean yourself after you go to the bathroom. So attempting to shake someone's hand with your left hand, or even waving at somebody with your left hand, it could be considered an insult. So sorry lefties out there, you may want to just start using your right hand. Practice from now if you ever plan to ever visit Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia also has the largest camel market in the world. It's called the Bereda Camel Market, and camels and everything related to camels go on sale exactly at 6 a.m. every single day, and hundreds of camels are sold each day. Saudi Arabia is also the country at the center point of Islam, quite literally. So you know how Muslims follow the 5 pillars of Islam, right? Well, performing Hajj, that's one of the 5 pillars of Islam, and this requires Muslims from all around the world to travel to Mecca. And approximately 2 million people make this trip every single year. But more accurately though, Hajj is a pilgrimage made to Kaaba, which means house of Allah, which is in the city of Mecca in Saudi Arabia. And by the way, it's only if you're able to do this. So people who are in extreme poverty or just too old or physically unable to do the pilgrimage, they don't have to do it. But for other Muslims, it's a requirement. Motorists in Saudi Arabia have invented this dangerous but really exciting new driving sport. It's called sidewalk skiing, where drivers balance a car on its side while the car is still in motion. Now, I'm not brave enough to try that, because what happens if I tip over? Like, for real. But if you're brave enough and have the cash for a pretty expensive car repair, sure, I mean, go ahead. I won't judge you. In Saudi Arabia, primary education up until high school education is open to everybody and it's completely free. But not only that, also education including college and postgraduate schooling is totally free in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is also a prohibition state and it's not legal to drink alcohol in the country. However, amateur beer and winemaking in Saudi Arabia is a pretty minor industry among many expats that live in the country. And there's a full range of spirits that are available on the black market. So yeah, you can definitely drink, but you're just doing that at your own risk. Now, Saudi Arabia is a country that makes up the majority of the Arabian Peninsula, and that's the world's largest peninsula. And due to its size and its location, many people sometimes consider it a subcontinent of Asia. The national language in Saudi Arabia is Arabic, and there's also many words in English that derive from the Arabic language, including words like alchemy, chemistry, alcohol, algebra, alkaline, almanac, arsenal, assassin, candy, cipher, coffee, guitar, and many more. Now, the final thing I want to share with you about Saudi Arabia in this episode, I'm going to end off on a pretty fun note. So back in the year 1985, right, Prince Salman became the first Saudi, the first Arab, and the first Muslim to travel in space when he traveled on the US space shuttle Discovery. He helped to deploy a satellite for the Arab Satellite Communications Organization with NASA.